Vincent LaRocca was born into wealth and privilege, the son of Antonio LaRocca, a successful businessman with deep ties to the underworld. Growing up in the opulent neighborhoods of New York City, Vincent wanted for nothing. He attended the finest schools, wore the best clothes, and was groomed to take over the family business from a young age. Despite the luxury, Vincent's childhood was not without its dark moments. His father's business dealings often brought violence and danger to their doorstep. Vincent witnessed his father's ruthlessness firsthand, learning early on that power and respect were earned through fear and control. This environment shaped him, molding him into a sharp, calculating young man with a taste for power. As a teenager, Vincent was sent to a prestigious boarding school in Europe. There, he excelled academically and athletically, but his true education came during the summers spent back in New York, shadowing his father. Antonio taught Vincent the intricacies of their business, from money laundering and smuggling to bribery and intimidation. Vincent soaked it all in, eager to prove himself. By the time he was in his early 20s, Vincent had become a key player in the LaRocca family operations. His father's trust in him was absolute, and Vincent was given increasing responsibility. He handled delicate negotiations, dealt with troublesome associates, and made strategic decisions that expanded their empire. His rise within the family was meteoric, and it wasn't long before he became known as a force to be reckoned with. Despite his growing influence, Vincent was not content to merely follow in his father's footsteps. He had ambitions of his own and a vision for the future of the LaRocca empire. He saw opportunities in new markets, emerging technologies, and global networks. He knew that to achieve his dreams, he would need to modernize their operations and adapt to the changing times. Vincent's rise to power was not without its challenges. There were those within the family who resented his rapid ascent and questioned his loyalty. Old guard members saw him as a threat to their own positions, and younger associates envied his success. Vincent navigated these treacherous waters with cunning and tact, using both charm and intimidation to keep his rivals at bay. One of Vincent's earliest and most significant moves was to establish a foothold in the lucrative world of cybercrime. He recruited a team of brilliant hackers and tech experts, people who could infiltrate systems, steal sensitive information, and manipulate digital currencies. This move not only brought in substantial revenue, but also gave the LaRocca family a new edge over their competitors. As Vincent's influence grew, so did his ambitions. He began to envision a unified organization, one that could dominate not just the city but the entire East Coast. To achieve this, he needed to consolidate power and eliminate any threats to his authority. This meant making some difficult and dangerous decisions. One such decision was to confront a rival family, the Morettis. The Morettis had long been a thorn in the LaRocca family's side, competing for territory and resources. Vincent knew that to secure his position, he needed to send a clear message. He orchestrated a series of strategic attacks on Moretti operations, crippling their business and forcing them to the negotiating table. The confrontation with the Morettis was a turning point for Vincent. It demonstrated his willingness to take bold risks and his ability to outmaneuver his enemies. The LaRocca family emerged from the conflict stronger than ever, with Vincent firmly in control. His father, proud of his son's achievements, began to step back, allowing Vincent to take the reins. With the Morettis neutralized, Vincent turned his attention to expanding the LaRocca empire. He forged alliances with other powerful families and criminal organizations, creating a vast network of influence and control. He invested in legitimate businesses as well, using them as fronts for their illegal activities and as a means to launder money. Real estate, nightclubs, casinos, and luxury hotels all became part of the LaRocca portfolio. Vincent's success brought him wealth, power, and respect, but it also brought new challenges. As he climbed higher, the stakes grew ever greater. Law enforcement agencies began to take notice, and the FBI launched a dedicated task force to bring him down. Vincent had to stay one step ahead, using his connections and resources to avoid capture. His personal life was equally complicated. Vincent's relationships were often superficial, driven by his need for control and his mistrust of others. He had a string of affairs, but found it difficult to form genuine connections. The one exception was Isabella, a woman he had known since childhood. Isabella was intelligent, beautiful, and ambitious in her own right. She understood the complexities of Vincent's world and was drawn to his power and charisma. Vincent and Isabella's relationship was tumultuous, marked by passion and betrayal. Isabella was not content to be merely a trophy wife. She wanted a partnership, a role in the empire Vincent was building. This desire for equality led to conflicts, but also to moments of deep connection and mutual respect. Vincent admired Isabella's strength and intelligence, and over time, they developed a complex, interdependent bond. As Vincent's empire grew, so did the pressure from law enforcement. The FBI's task force, led by Agent Michael Sullivan, was relentless in its pursuit. Sullivan was a seasoned investigator, determined to bring down the LaRocca family. He gathered evidence, turned informants, and launched covert operations to infiltrate their network. Vincent, aware of the growing threat, took measures to protect himself and his organization. He implemented tighter security protocols, used encrypted communications, and conducted regular sweeps for bugs and informants. He also began to distance himself from the day-to-day operations, creating layers of insulation to shield him from direct involvement in criminal activities. Despite these precautions, the pressure continued to mount. A key informant within the organization, someone Vincent had trusted, was turned by the FBI. This betrayal led to a series of raids and arrests, disrupting their operations and bringing Vincent closer to the brink of exposure. The situation was dire, and Vincent knew that to survive, he needed to take drastic action. In a bold move, Vincent decided to go on the offensive. He launched a series of counterattacks against the FBI, using his network of hackers to gather intelligence and disrupt their operations. He also orchestrated a smear campaign against Agent Sullivan, using fabricated evidence to discredit him and undermine his credibility. These tactics bought Vincent some time, but they also escalated the conflict to a new level. As the battle between Vincent and the FBI intensified, so did the internal tensions within the LaRocca family. Old grudges and rivalries resurfaced, and factions began to form. Some saw Vincent's aggressive tactics as reckless, while others questioned his loyalty and leadership. The cracks in the foundation of his empire grew wider, threatening to bring everything crashing down. In the midst of this turmoil, Vincent faced a personal crisis. Isabella, who had stood by him through thick and thin, grew increasingly disillusioned with their life of crime. She wanted more than wealth and power. She wanted a future free from fear and violence. Isabella's growing dissatisfaction put a strain on their relationship, and Vincent found himself torn between his love for her and his commitment to the family business. The turning point came when Isabella discovered she was pregnant. The news forced Vincent to confront the reality of their situation and the legacy he was creating for their child. He began to question his choices and the path he had taken. For the first time in his life, Vincent considered walking away from the empire he had built. But leaving the life of a mafia boss was not so simple. Vincent's enemies, both within and outside the family, saw his moment of doubt as an opportunity. Betrayals and power plays escalated, leading to a violent showdown that threatened to destroy everything Vincent had worked for. He found himself fighting not just for his empire, but for his life and the future of his family. In a final, desperate bid for survival, Vincent made a deal with Agent Sullivan. He offered to turn over key evidence and testify against his rivals in exchange for protection and a new life for himself, Isabella, and their child. The deal was risky, but it was the only way to escape the deadly game he had been playing. The operation to bring down the LaRocca family was a success. Vincent's testimony led to the arrest and conviction of numerous high-ranking members, crippling the organization. In return, Vincent and Isabella were given new identities and relocated to a safe, undisclosed location. The transition was not easy. Vincent struggled to adjust to a life outside the shadows, and the scars of his past lingered. But with Isabella's support and the promise of a new beginning for their child, he found a sense of peace he had never known. Vincent LaRocca's story was one of ambition, power, and betrayal. Born into privilege, he had risen to the pinnacle of the criminal underworld, only to be brought down by his own choices and the relentless pursuit of justice. In the end, he learned that true power came not from fear and control, but from love and redemption. The transition was difficult for Vincent. Used to the fast-paced, high-stakes world of organized crime, he found the quiet, anonymous life challenging. The skills and instincts that had kept him alive in the mafia felt out of place in his new world. Yet, with Isabella by his side and the promise of a fresh start for their child, Vincent was determined to adapt. The first few months were the hardest. They settled in a small town far from New York, where nobody knew their past. Vincent took on a new identity, going by the name Victor Romano. He worked various odd jobs, from construction to landscaping, anything to keep a low profile and provide for his family. Isabella, who had always been resourceful, found work at a local boutique. They lived simply but peacefully. As time passed, Vincent began to appreciate the tranquility of his new life. He enjoyed the simplicity of honest work and the genuine connections he formed with his neighbors. He found solace in the routine and the absence of constant danger. For the first time, he felt a sense of normalcy and contentment. Isabella thrived as well. She embraced their new life wholeheartedly, finding joy in small things, decorating their home, making new friends, and preparing for the arrival of their child. The prospect of motherhood brought her a sense of purpose and fulfillment that she had never known before. Their son, Luca, was born in the spring, bringing immeasurable joy to their lives. Vincent was determined to be a better father than his own had been. He doted on Luca, relishing every moment of fatherhood. Watching his son grow, Vincent felt a deep sense of responsibility and a desire to protect him from the darkness of his past. Despite the peace they had found, Vincent's past occasionally cast a shadow over their new life. He remained vigilant, always aware of the potential threat from old enemies who might seek revenge. The fear of being discovered never entirely left him, but he took every precaution to ensure their safety. One night, about a year after Luca's birth, Vincent noticed a familiar face in town, a man he recognized from his days in the mafia. Panic surged through him, but he managed to maintain his composure. He couldn't afford to draw attention. The man seemed to be passing through, but the encounter was a stark reminder of the ever-present danger. Vincent decided it was time to move again. He and Isabella packed up their lives and relocated to another small town, this time even farther from their past. They changed their identities once more, adopting the names Peter and Maria Rossi. The move was stressful, but Vincent knew it was necessary for their safety. In their new home, they settled into a similar routine. Vincent found work as a mechanic, a job that allowed him to use his skills and keep a low profile. Isabella continued to work in retail, and Luca adjusted well to the change. The small community welcomed them, and they slowly built a new life. Years passed, and the shadows of the past gradually faded. Luca grew into a bright, inquisitive child, full of energy and curiosity. Vincent and Isabella cherished their time with him, creating a loving and stable environment. They celebrated birthdays, holidays, and milestones, finding joy in the ordinary moments of family life. Vincent often reflected on the choices that had brought him to this point. He knew he could never entirely escape his past, but he had found a measure of peace and redemption. The love and happiness he shared with Isabella and Luca were worth more than all the power and wealth he had once sought. As Luca grew older, Vincent and Isabella faced the challenge of explaining their past to him. They decided to be honest, telling him the truth in age-appropriate ways. They wanted him to understand the importance of making good choices and the consequences of a life of crime. Luca took the revelations in stride, his love for his parents unwavering. The years continued to pass, and Vincent's fear of discovery lessened. He and Isabella grew older, watching Luca blossom into a young man with a bright future. Vincent took pride in his son's accomplishments and the life they had built together. He had found a way to transform his past mistakes into lessons for Luca, hoping to guide him towards a better path. In his twilight years, Vincent reflected on the journey that had brought him from the dangerous streets of New York to the peaceful life he now enjoyed. He had paid a high price for his choices, but he had also found redemption and a second chance. The love and strength of his family had given him a new purpose, one that transcended the allure of power and wealth. Vincent LaRocca, once a feared mafia boss, had become Peter Rossi, a devoted husband and father. His legacy was no longer one of crime and violence, but of love, redemption, and the enduring power of family. As he watched Luca embark on his own journey, Vincent knew that his story had come full circle. He had found peace, and in doing so, had secured a brighter future for those he loved most. In the end, Vincent's life was a testament to the power of change and the possibility of redemption. He had walked a long and dangerous path, but he had emerged from the shadows, guided by love and the hope of a better tomorrow. And in the quiet moments of his later years, surrounded by the family he had fought so hard to protect, Vincent LaRocca found the peace he had long sought. Moral: redemption and personal transformation are possible, even for those who have led lives of crime and power. Vincent's journey demonstrates that it is never too late to change one's path, seek forgiveness, and build a better future. Through love, hard work, and the desire to make amends, he finds peace and fulfillment, illustrating that the past does not have to dictate one's future and that genuine change is achievable through determination and integrity.